country, that's even a bigger change, I think. So yeah, would be absolutely happy to help with that. I myself started out as a student myself too. It was a few years back. I was also an international student here. I went to Illinois State University, which is a public school. It's a bigger state school, also in the same town I live in right now. And that was definitely a life-changing experience for me. So I'm really happy that I'm able to help out other people right now and tell them about international education. So today we're going to be talking about how to write a successful college essay. As you guys probably know, essays is something that is very popular among American universities. When you do apply, a lot of them ask that you submit an essay. So we're going to be talking about what it is and how to make it successful. All right, so let's talk about the purpose of a college essay. So typically when they ask you to write an essay, the purpose of it is to look at your, first of all, quality of writing, how can you express yourself, learn more about yourself, learn about your personal qualities, what is important to you, what are your values, what are some of the priorities that you have in your life. They also want to know about your unique voice and your passions and your interests and what makes you you, basically. They want to know more about your personality. And while doing that, we definitely also want to make sure that you are comfortable expressing yourself in writing, that you have pretty decent grammar and sentence structure, and you're able to put together a well thought sentence and get to the point that you're trying to express in that essay. So that is really important because, for example, in our university, Illinois Wesleyan, that is a liberal arts school. So what it means is that a lot of the subjects are going to be taught through the lens of writing and speaking and expressing yourself. So we really want to make sure that our students know how to write, and they are able to maintain that decent quality of writing. But also in the American application process, what we also look at besides your academics is also your personality, your involvements outside of classroom, which I think that's very different from a lot of schools in, post-Soviet countries, for example, or even Europe, even the UK. A lot of those schools look mostly at your academic performance, or your grades, your whatever else it might be, test scores, versus here in the US, people are looking at you as a comprehensive applicant. So not only do they look at the academics, they also look at your involvements, at your personal qualities, what makes you as a person, what do you do in your free time, what do you do outside of classroom. So that is really important to have that life outside of the classroom, and that's going to be something that we're actually interested to know more about. So that is why we also require an essay, just to get to know you better. So that is your chance to kind of breathe life in your applications, to make you stand out, to tell us something unique that we maybe could not have found out from your application, from your transcript. And again, like it says here, share something that's important to you that your other parts of the application do not showcase. So something that we cannot already learn from your academic transcripts or your essays or your other information. So now we're going to talk about selecting your topic. So what is the topic of the perfect essay? I mean, it can really be anything. It can be anything you want. I wanted to talk about some myth about essay topics. A lot of people think that if this person wrote about this topic and they got admitted, then I should write about the topic too. That is not, unfortunately, always true, because, like I said, what we look at is making sure that the essay is unique to you and we can hear your individual voice through it. One person can be really successful about talking about, I don't know, football, talking about their involvements with some other sport like lacrosse or something, I don't know, tennis, and you have no experience playing tennis. So if you actually write about that topic, it's not going to sound authentic to you. It's not going to make you look better, because that's something that you really don't have expertise about. So definitely don't copy other people's topics. um and then don't really write about your involvements that we can already see from your application that are super obvious. Like, I know a lot of athletes that I came across write about their sport, which I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but I can already see from the application that you're a professional soccer player, that you're a professional tennis player. Unless it's a unique story about the sport that you want to share, I would say definitely avoid politics, avoid just listing what you already put in the activities section. So if you already put that you're a member of speech club, and you play violin and you play the piano, and then you just list it all over again um in your essay, I just don't think that that's really necessary, unless again that's a unique story. um and then a lot of people also say that you should write about a tragedy or obstacle that you faced, which can also work out sometimes, but also depends on how you approach it. Not necessarily always the truth, not necessarily something that you need to share. Again, all depends on your comfort level about what you actually want to share with us. Don't write about something that makes you uncomfortable, that you're not really sure about, you don't know how you feel about it. That's definitely not going to put you in the best light. And then there are some topics that you may want to avoid, which is, like I said before, the summary of your resume or activities. I see a lot of essays which are not bad. I mean, I would say they are still admissible, like they are passable. They're not super bad. To put it frankly, but the essays that just summarize your activities and basically your resume, your internships, or whatever else you have been doing with your time. Um, Although it can be helpful for us if you did not mention that anywhere else in the application, but typically you will put that already on the list at the activities section of the application. So we really don't need to see it again in the essay section. So unless it's, like I said, a unique story that kind of elaborates on one of those activities, I would avoid that. Same with anything that can be perceived as offensive. I wouldn't talk too much about, some hot topics when it comes to, I don't know, gender rights, maybe politics, something very sensitive that can be perceived very different, depending on the people's personal affiliation with the topic. I think you should avoid it, because you never know what kind of ideology the college has. Maybe they are really against something that you're trying to come across. So you just don't want to let that affect your application. So definitely we always recommend avoiding things that can be perceived as offensive, or if it's like a controversial topic, I would also try to avoid it. Or if you do talk about it, just make sure that the wording that you choose is very careful, is very kind of inclusive, is very positive. So it's not offensive or it's not negative. Also don't write a story about somebody else. Again, going back to my previous topic, nobody wants to hear about other people's experiences. And if something worked out for one person, it doesn't mean that it's going to work out the same way for you. We want to know about you. We want to learn about your personal experiences, your unique story that makes you a good candidate. We don't want to know about what made your friend successful. So just make sure it's unique. So here you can see a list of prompts that Common App has. So if you guys don't know what Common App is, it is a website. You can also call it Common Application. So that is a website that is free, where you can put all of your information and use it as an application for most colleges in the United States. So if you are planning on applying to multiple schools in the United States, I always highly recommend Common App, just because, like I said, it's free. It allows you to input all of your information, and then you will apply that same information to multiple colleges. And so one other great thing about this is that Common App actually gives you a set of different prompts. So it's different writing prompts, writing questions that you can use to kind of inspire your essay. Sometimes you just don't know what topic to choose. So here you have 7. You have 7 different ideas. And I know a lot of students that I work with, especially domestic students, so American students who apply, they use Common App prompts. The first one is probably the most popular from what I'm seeing. So it says some students have a background, identity, or interest that is so meaningful that they believe their application would be incomplete without it. And then share your story about it. So that is a very popular one where people talk about something that inspires them, their passion. A lot of student athletes who play professional sports, they will talk about how they, I don't know, there was like a football match or something, soccer match, and they injured themselves and then they recovered from the injury, and that whole emotional story of kind of overcoming difficulties is a very popular topic for people from what I'm seeing. But it has 7 different things for you to think about. I think it can be really helpful. And also what's great about Common App is that you can actually write that essay once and then you can apply that same essay to multiple colleges. So that's a huge time saver. So now let's talk a little bit about the structure of your essay. So how do we actually compose it? So how do we make it flow? How do we make it sound great? How do we make it easily readable, so to speak? So definitely don't overthink it, I would say. So this is not an analytical essay. So that is not a scientific essay. It's not an essay where you have to have a certain structure of like necessarily introduction and then I don't know, introduction of the idea, and then some arguments supporting it, and then some sources. So it's not a research essay. It's more so your unique creative story. So don't overthink that, but also make sure that it does have a decent structure that is easy to follow, because sometimes what I end up looking at is how well people are able to kind of stay on topic. Some essays, you will start reading them and you think about it, it's about one thing, but then you continue reading and it just turns into something completely different. They started talking about their pet, and then from talking about their dog, they just kind of sidetrack and they end up talking about their grandma. And so you just end up very confused because you're like, okay, so is this about your dog or is it about your grandma? Like, what's going on here? So just make sure that it flows and make sure it makes sense. Make sure it kind of maintains the same idea throughout. So I would say it has to have some kind of structure, not necessarily the traditional academic 5-paragraph essay structure, but you need to be able to know what it's about. All right. Throughout the whole essay, it has to be one theme. It cannot be about a million different things. And then definitely break up your story into sections. That makes it so super easy to read, especially if you do different paragraphs. Let's say you do like 5 different paragraphs or 6 different paragraphs, and you do spacings between them. So if you allow for that spacing between the paragraphs, it makes it way easier to read, way easier to understand. So I would rather go with 5 smaller paragraphs than 1 large essay with no kind of division or structure whatsoever. Again, it might work for you for your creative idea, I guess, but it just makes it way easier for us to read and understand if it's broken up into different little paragraphs. And again, talk about something that makes it unique. So something that is unique to you, represents yourself and your experiences. So a couple kind of common knowledge things about essay writing that they teach here is definitely show versus tell us. So that's something that they tell you about writing a lot. So you need to be able to demonstrate why you feel a certain way. So use this descriptive language, use a lot of adjectives instead of just telling me I love my grandma. Try to describe why you love your grandma. Try to describe how it makes you feel. Try to give me an example of something that you did for your grandma that shows that you love your grandma. So the way they teach you to do it is by using your 5 senses. So what you can see, what you can hear, what you can touch, what you can taste, and what you can smell. So if you think about those things, it makes it easier to make your essay more creative and make your topic richer and more saturated by thinking about those things instead of just telling me one sentence. Um, and again, if you think about, including something really cool into it, like a dialogue, or use some quotation marks with something that somebody said, or use a poem, or use a even recipe, it says in an example. So if you can incorporate that creative element into your essay, that's also going to be really cool. Maybe lyrics to some song, or something that you would think will illustrate your topic in a positive light. Definitely don't be afraid to get creative with it, but that is actually a really good exercise, and I highly encourage you to think about it in your free time. Just kind of sit down and pick a topic, and then think about how it makes you feel, and what you see, what you hear, what you touch, what you taste, what you smell when you think about it, and trying to kind of write it out, and um, make sure that your one sentence that you wanted to say is being delivered in this very creative and poetic way. So it's definitely a great exercise if you want to just make sure that your writing is more rich, it flows better. I would recommend just playing with it in your free time. But again, this is for creative writing. This is not for your academic writing when you have a certain topic and you have to write an essay on that topic. So definitely they don't want to see any lyrics to songs or recipes or poems when you write an essay for academic purposes. So we need to make sure that there's it's a totally different capacity in which you write. But for this purpose, that's totally fine to get creative. So a simple structure would be you grab the reader's attention with your hook, with your opening, and then you introduce a topic. So I always recommend starting with a quote is easy enough, right? So if you know a quote by your favorite, whether it's an artist, politician, writer, whoever it might be. So if you start with a quote, and then introduce a topic, that's definitely a really good intro paragraph. And then you jump right into your narrative. So your biggest section of your essay is going to be about your story and the details of it. And then some moment that is sort of an eye-opening thing for you. It's the middle of the essay. The most important thing in the essay is going to be that forward moment and the movement that you want to share with us. So something that really inspired you, or whatever it is that you were writing your essay on. The most kind of emotional, or the most important moment, people usually put in the middle, kind of among those story details. You put that main thing that you want to tell us, and then you jump into conclusion, then you kind of summarize, and then you reveal something like personal truth, or something that you think about what happened. So if it's, let's say, like a sports essay, so you will start about what inspired you to even start playing football. You'll put a quote in there, and then your main section will be about some details. So it was I don't know, a sunny day in the fall, and I was playing football with my friends, and then I broke my ankle. So that's going to be your forward movement. So that's going to be your moment that happened, that is sort of the middle of that situation. And then from there, you're going to tell us what you learned from that situation. Then you're going to tell us, well, I still got up and I finished my game, even though my ankle was broken. And then I learned this, this, and this from this experience. So that's going to be a kind of a simple structure for an essay that you can always use, and kind of have this as your canvas, as your outline for your essay. And then some things to keep in mind: definitely keep it personal. Make sure that your message is coming straight from you, even if somebody is helping you with editing your essay, proofreading. Make sure grammar, punctuation, everything is correct. Even if you show it to your teacher, just make sure that the actual messaging and the actual topic is coming directly from you, not from anybody else. And again, it should focus on you, even if you feature somebody else. Like I mentioned before, if you write about your grandma, that's totally fine, but also make sure that we know what you learned about it, what you think about your relationship with your grandma. So we don't want to know about your grandma's life. We want to know how you feel about that. All right. And now when you do write, be genuine, don't use the words, especially for if English is not your first language, obviously it makes it a little bit harder to write an essay. So definitely be genuine. Don't use words that you don't know. Don't go look in the dictionary searching for some words that sound cool or that sound sophisticated and try to just input them in your essay. Don't do that. Use the words that you know, that you're comfortable with, that you understand really well. Even if it's just simple vocabulary, I would rather have that than a bunch of words that you clearly do not really understand. And it should sound just like you. So it should sound like very similar to what you sound like when you talk. So when you speak, and do your speaking exercises in English. So that's how your essay should sound. It shouldn't sound totally foreign to you. It shouldn't sound very, very academic. So use pretty simple basic language, but there's a way you can make your essay flow and still make it unique, even if it uses simple language. And then pick a topic that you're comfortable with, which I talked about a ton here, but just to reiterate again, definitely pick a topic that you are comfortable with and makes you that is something that you have expertise on, right? And then you don't have to share your deepest secrets. I know a lot of people think that, if I shock them with something that happened to me, that's gonna play in my favor, which it can. But again, if you are not comfortable sharing something, if you don't want to talk about it, if it's something that you want people to ask questions about, I would definitely not share it. Just because it can put you in an uncomfortable situation. If, let's say, you go in for an interview with a college and they ask you about something you shared in your essay and you just don't want to talk about it. So we really don't need to know your deepest secrets that you might have. All right, so let's talk about optional essays versus supplemental essays. So when it says optional essay, that means that it's not required, but it's recommended. So for Illinois Wesleyan, just to give you an example, for the school that I work for, we have something called personal statement. So that is an optional essay. So that is the second essay that we do not require, but if people submit it, I personally really appreciate it because it tells you why exactly you applied for Illinois Wesleyan. So I always look at those, I always read those. If there's not one, it's okay. I just mark it as non-existent. But when it does exist, it really, really helps to get to know you better and know why exactly you applied. And it can really make it or break it for you, because I had applicants where I was kind of on the verge of admitting or not admitting, and then I read their optional essay and it explains that, hey, my grades are not the best, but I did this, this, and this. I volunteered and I just really like your school because of X, Y, and Z reasons. And that would kind of make that case. And I would be like, okay, I'm going to give that person a chance because they clearly explain what's going on, right? So that is optional essays. Versus supplemental essay. If it says that, that means that it's required, but you need to always look on the website of the specific college. Essay is usually a requirement. At least one essay is a requirement pretty much at every American university that you're going to be applying for. So I would say definitely if you write one good essay, let's say through Common Application, you can use it and you can reuse it as many times as you want. And then your second optional essay, the one some people call it statement of purpose, some people call it personal statement. So that one is supposed to be unique to every university. So that is really important because sometimes I see people mentioning another school's name in their personal statement, and that just does not make you look good. Sometimes people will say, oh, like, I want to go to New York State University because this, and this. And I read it and I'm like, well, I represent Illinois Wesleyan. So did you mean to apply for us? So just make sure that you clearly know what the requirements are. And then for the personal statement, it has to be unique to every school. It doesn't have to be long though. It can only be a couple sentences. But that one, the optional one, is supposed to be unique to every college you apply to. And again, so colleges rely on the essays to gain additional information on your character. So that is for the required essay. The supplemental ones, that is something that we actually really do need to see, because there is actually criteria when we decide if we're going to admit you or not. We look at your essay and we assign you a certain score based on that essay. So we really do need to have that on file for a lot of reasons. It's also a great way for you to demonstrate interest in your college. So that is more so for the optional essay, for the personal statement. Helps a ton to know why a certain person is applying and what interests them in that particular college. And then to reiterate what I said before, do your research, make sure that you know what exactly is required in every single school you apply for. So just look at their website, what they need. Most likely they will need at least one essay, and then if you can give them another one just explaining why you applied to that specific school, that's going to be helpful as well. And then information can be found on college websites, information sessions, kind of like this one, or tours. We at Illinois Wesleyan, we offer virtual visits, so virtual tours. In America, it's actually really popular for people to come out to the school campus and kind of tour, go around on like a little excursion, and see the facilities, see the buildings, talk to students. Unfortunately, when you're applying as an international student, you can't just travel to every single university to check out their campus. But a lot of them, like the school that I work for, they offer virtual online tours or virtual meetings with the counselor. So that can be really helpful too. And take your time with the essay, especially the one that's going to be required. Make sure that you don't write it the day before your application is due. Make sure you don't just research a sample essay or a template and just like use it for every single school, which, like I said, for your main essay, again, you can reuse it multiple times. Just make sure it doesn't have any school names in it. It also kind of depends on what your topic is. So if your whole essay is about why you want to come to Illinois Wesleyan, let's say, then you cannot reuse that essay when you apply for California State University, right? Because then it's not going to make sense at all. But if your essay is about how you like playing the piano and it's about a story, how you won this concert or you won this recital or something happened during the piano recital, if it's completely unrelated to the school name, then you can absolutely reuse that for Illinois Wesleyan and for California State, right? But then for the optional essay, for the statement of purpose, it needs to be unique to both Wesleyan and California State. And then, of course, edit multiple times, have somebody look at your essay. Again, don't let anybody write it for you because that's cheating. We don't like that. But if somebody can look it over for you, just make sure, it's grammatically correct. It has all the commas, all the periods, everything is great grammatically, and the structure is good and it's easy to read, it's easy to comprehend. Definitely ask family, friends, your teachers, counselors, whoever can help you, just to get their opinion on it, not necessarily even for the editing purposes, but read it out loud, make sure it flows well. How does it sound to you? Does it sound authentic to you? Does it sound like you wrote it, or does it sound like a bunch of words that you don't really understand? So make sure that you really take some time reading it and proofreading it. And definitely double check for grammar and for typos. Typos are very annoying. I know everybody makes mistakes and it's totally fine, but that college essay has to be something that you really put a lot of thought into. So if we see a typo that just tells us that maybe you didn't take that much time writing it and reading it, and that doesn't make you look the best in your application. And it just does not translate well into the whole, perseverance and the whole effort that you put into the application. So just make sure that it is written to the best of your ability. All right, so now that I am finished with the essay writing part, and we're gonna jump into questions here soon, I just wanted to take a couple minutes to talk about our university that I represent, tell you a little bit more about us, and give you like a sample application requirement set, so tell you what we require for our applicants, just so you can see hear from an actual college representative and kind of see for yourself what those essays look like when it comes to college requirements. So for Illinois Wesleyan University, we are, like I said, located a few miles away from Chicago. We are down south from Chicago in the state of Illinois, kind of bordering with Canada, Great Lakes. So we are in that part of the country right in the middle. We are a small liberal arts institution, so our college campus is pretty small when it comes to student population. We only have about 1,700 students. So there's a difference in the US between small liberal arts schools, private colleges, and public state institutions. So we are a private one. We are smaller. We have smaller classrooms, individualized attention from professors. We only have 17 students per class. So very similar to your high school, but our physical campus is actually pretty big. So when it comes to all of our buildings, all of our facilities, we have all the same resources that a big college will have. So we have a lot to offer on our beautiful campus. You can see a couple pictures here. There's a lot of student research that our students do. Our faculty is very attentive. They're very supportive of students. We have a ton of student clubs and organizations. We actually have over 100 of those. So if you're interested in whether it's acting, writing, sports, we can offer all of it. Student government, politics, whatever it might be. We're also a fine arts school. So if you are planning on majoring in something like music, acting, performing, we have wonderful departments in that. We're also known for a business program. So if you're planning on majoring in business, we have a great program for you. Same with sciences. One of our signature one is nursing. So if you want to be a nurse, which nursing is a super popular profession in the United States right now, and it's something that leads to super high salaries. So if that's something you're interested in, we have a #1 in the state program when it comes to nursing. So our students, all of them leave on campus. We have over 70 right now. It's like in the 80s, I think 85 international students currently, which is a great percentage. If you look at our overall number of students, we have about 10% international students, which makes me really happy. We had a really successful year last year. We actually had quite a few students from Central Asia. We had one of the students from Tajikistan, actually, she won our presidential scholarship, and she's currently studying in Illinois Wesleyan. So if you guys need me to connect you with her, I could absolutely do that. So now let's talk about the application and what we require to apply. We accept the Common App. So the website that I talked about a few minutes before, the Common Application is something that we accept. It is absolutely free to fill out. You don't have to pay anything. We do require an essay. So one essay you will need to write. Again, through the Common App, that's totally fine. We also have something called personal statement, which is a second essay, like we talked about a few minutes ago. So that one is just to explain why you're interested in Illinois Wesleyan. So just a few sentences, doesn't have to be long, but it really helps us figure out why exactly you applied. For our international students, we do require language tests. So whether it's TOEFL, IELTS, Duolingo, we actually have quite a few options for you guys, whatever test you decide to take. And then in terms of our scholarships, we actually provide scholarships to everybody who applies to Illinois Wesleyan. Everybody gets our merit-based scholarships that can range from $10,000 up to $34,000. So that is just based on your application. So that's again why essay is so important, because a lot of the time we're deciding between how much money to give to a certain person, and we're not sure between the two different levels of scholarships, and then we're going to look at the essay, and so they can really make you look better, and they can make you potentially receive more scholarships. We also have need-based financial aid for our students. So that is something based on your family situation, your family income. That is done through CSS profile, and we can talk about it if you are interested and schedule a meeting with me. We can talk more about the financial details, but we do provide quite a bit of scholarships for our international students. And then there's also presidential scholarship, which is full tuition is covered. There's only 2 of those per year, but they are a thing, and it's very much possible for you to win those. And again, essay is really important. When we look at our presidential scholars, if your application looks phenomenal, but your essay is just not well written, then chances are that we're not going to select you for the scholarship, because essay is a really important component. And the other way around, if we have 2 applications with really great activities, involvements, academics, like straight A's or something like that, great scores when it comes to TOEFL, IELTS, but one of them, the essay is not so great, the other one, the essay is great, that's going to be the one that we're going to go with. So that's why I said essay is really important. Make sure it is well written, make sure somebody looks it over, proofreads it for you. All right, so that is pretty much it for me. And I want to know what questions you guys have. And again, if you need anything, if you want to know more about the application process, either at Illinois Wesleyan or just anywhere in the US, just feel free to email me. I think the first slide should have my information, but here in the slide, I have some resources for you. So these are our social media for Illinois Wesleyan. If you want to just browse the campus, the pictures, connect with our students, I always encourage you to get in touch with a student who currently attends that university. You can do that through our social media, or again, just approach me in person and I will be happy to help you. All right, so let's see if we have any questions. All right. So I can see something, there's something in the chat or in the Q&A from, how do you
The
say it?
questions are in the Q&A box. Can you see that?
Yes, I can see it. From IHAMD. How do you say that name?
It's Ahmad.
Ahmad. Okay, sorry, Ahmad. Can we write some small lies while writing the essay? What do you mean about small lies? I mean, do you mean like white lies or something, exaggerate something? Again, it's up to you. I think it depends on how comfortable you are with that. So if you feel like you need to exaggerate something, you can. But again, I would recommend being authentic. I would recommend being truthful. If you don't have certain achievements that you're trying to talk about, then just don't mention them. Again, it's going to come off better. It's going to come off more genuine if you talk about something that is truthful. All right, so I would definitely discourage you from it. But again, it's your personal essay. If you feel like it's something that you need to do, then nobody can stop you. Just make sure, again, it sounds authentic to you. All right, so does your university give fully funded scholarships to international students for bachelor's degree? Yes, so I mentioned presidential scholarship. There's only 2 of those, but they're not full funded, so they're not full ride, right? But they do cover tuition. So when I say tuition, that is the money that you're going to be paying for the actual classes. The way the price is being set in the American universities is you have tuition and then you have room and board. So room and board is your housing, your dorms, your meal plan, your food, things like that. So when they say full ride, that means that they cover that too. So they're going to cover your classes and your living expenses, right? So for us, presidential scholarship is only for the tuition. It's not for the full ride. All right. So you will still have to make sure that you can cover the room and board. All right, is there a separate application for the presidential scholarships, or are we considered based on the CSS profile? So those are slightly different things. So there's no separate application for presidential scholarship or any of our merit-based scholarships. You are getting automatically considered. That's one great thing about a lot of private institutions, is that your application is already an application for a scholarship. So you don't have to do anything else. Now CSS profile is completely different. That is something that you don't have to submit, but you only submit it to get the need-based aid. So that is an additional aid that's going to be awarded on top of your merit-based aid. And that is based on exclusively your economic situation in your family, right? So just based on your income. It has nothing to do with your application quality. All right, I think that one girl from Tajikistan was accepted. Yes, she was to university. Does it affect application for those other people from Tajikistan? Absolutely not, except for now we have a representative from Tajikistan that we're super proud of, and that just opens hopefully more doors for you guys to do the same thing. It affects, if anything, it affects you positively. But it's not going to take away from you and by any means. So yeah, we definitely encourage you to apply. We love, I think her name is Noza, right? Noza, she's so sweet. So we are super proud of her. All right, so we have Yusuf. Are merit-based scholarships only for domestic students or international too? They are for international students also. So merit-based scholarships at Illinois Wesleyan are for everybody, all the applicants, and there's no separate application for them. So you will get them regardless. Does IWU have any study abroad program? That's a great question. Yes, we do. We have a lot of study abroad programs. We have over 70 destinations that we can send you to, depending on what you would like and where you want to go. We have exchange programs for the whole semester. We have travel programs just for a few weeks, whatever might interest you. And actually pretty popular for our students to study abroad. We have about 50% of our campus participating. So yes, a ton of opportunities. Some of them are fully funded, so they're going to be covered by financial aid, or they're going to be covered by our university. So a lot of possibilities there. Okay, so I think it just kind of set me off a little bit. Oh, let's see. Okay. I'm trying to see which one did I read. Okay. But while submitting our recommendation letters, most of our teachers do not have the official Gmail. They have the simple Gmail account, not the professional. Does that play a role on your considering these letters? If they don't have an official Gmail account, that is fine by me. It's just they do need to email us your high school transcripts. Whatever email it's coming from, it does not matter that much. It just, I need to make sure that it's coming from them and that it's not coming from you directly, because that's a big thing that a lot of people do. They self-report their transcripts and test scores, and that's unfortunately is not something that we can accept. Totally fine, whatever email they have, just have them email it on your behalf and we will look at it. For a medical degree, is it possible to get the scholarship? Yes, it is possible to get scholarships for all programs. It does not matter what area you're going into. We have at Wesleyan, we have pre-med track, so that is a certain set of classes that you're going to be taking that kind of put you on that medical school track, right? Because medical school is something that you apply for after your bachelor's degree, correct? So that is kind of the next step. But it is possible, yes. It's harder, but it's possible. Excuse me, I wanted to ask about the availability of need-based for national students. For our particular school, we do have the need-based scholarship, so that is done through CSS profile through College Board. You can absolutely apply and we'll take a look at it. Some other schools might not have that option, so you again need to do your research and look at the websites and make sure that they offer that. All right, so if my parents are self-employed, how can I assure the income since it is not stable and the revenue varies month to month? I would say definitely bank statement, if that's something that they can get access to. Bank statements is something that you will have to be ready to prepare and show, even not even from the university standpoint when you apply for the F1 student visa. That's something that they will ask you for. So bank statement is the way to go. What percentage of students obtain internships? A very good percentage, I would say maybe 50% and more. Some certain majors at our school, like business, they have internships already part of their curriculum. It's incredibly common. If it's something that you want to do, you can always set it up with our career center. If that's something that you don't want to do, no worries, but it is super popular. What is the minimum score of TOEFL or Duolingo required by IWU? So for TOEFL, our minimum is, I want to say 80, 79 or 80. I think it's 80. And then for Duolingo, it's 115. This year we bumped it up a little bit. So it's 115 for Duolingo, and then for TOEFL, it's in the 80s. Will it be okay if I write about my life's meaning research in personal statement? Yes, I think that'll be okay. I think if that's something that you are passionate about, that can work. Again, you can write it in the essay or personal statement, it's up to you. Where do graduates continue their education? By the way, thank you guys so much for so many questions. That makes me so happy that you're so engaged. That's awesome. Where do graduates continue their education? It kind of depends on what they want to do. If the students are, let's say, in pre-med track, if they want to go to medical school, then they obviously apply for medical programs. If that's not something that they want to do, that's totally fine. They can apply for MBA programs, whatever they want to do for master's level, right? If that's not something they do either, then there's just a lot of other things that they can pursue, or they just end up going in the workforce and getting a job. Do they provide any summer, winter programs for undergraduate students? We have some summer classes that you can take. It also depends on the professors and kind of their schedule, their availability. But it is possible, yes, to sign up for a summer program. And then for winter, yes, there is a winter semester. There are winter programs. Unless you're asking about like study abroad and things like that. That can also be a thing. They can also be something that you do, but it's definitely provided. Okay, can we study 2 or more majors at the same time? Yes, you can double major. You can also have a major and a minor. So the difference between major and a minor is for the major, you will have to have a certain class requirement. So typically it's 4 courses per semester. And then for the minor, it's a little bit less than that. But it is very, very much possible. How does your college differ from other comparable universities? All right, let me just make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay, yes. How does your college differ from other comparable universities? I would say definitely by our student support. We have a lot of support for our students. Our size is also something that's very attractive to people because we are smaller. So that means that you get more attention from our faculty. And then our quality of the academics. We are pretty well known for some of our programs. Our academics are rigorous. It's very demanding, but it is competitive because of all the great things that we offer with that. So I think that what makes us stand out is outstanding student support. And we're actually #1 in the state of Illinois for getting a job. So our graduates are very, very successful when it comes to getting a job and being successful in their field. Does IWU have pre-law program? Yes, we do. We have a phenomenal pre-law program that puts you straight into law school, and then you can become a lawyer and attorney in the US. How cool would that be? There's one question off the topic. Are you from Central Asian countries? Since you say you're an international student, certainly looks like you're from Central Asia. So I am from Russia. Is that Central Asia? Maybe. No, sorry. Yeah, so I'm from Russia. I grew up in like Moscow suburbs, I guess. And yeah, so I did the process all by myself. Was pretty much in the same boat as you few years back. And my kind of journey was a little different because I was applying for master's programs in the US, which is, I would say, a little bit easier funded. But props and kudos to you guys for trying it out. And I think it's a really great opportunity for you if you do decide to study in the US. Okay, bank statements, is it fine if it's just if I just include the amount of money I want to contribute for my attendance? That's going to depend on your statement and your particular situation. Typically, yes. Oh, look at that baby. All right, so yes, that's going to depend on your situation, and if you want to email me, we can talk about it more. All right. Is it possible to have double major? Yes, it is. You can do a double major, you can do a double minor, whatever works for you. Is it possible to share the contact of student from Tajikistan? Yes, absolutely. If you want to email me, I can definitely share that information. Students who want to get a fully funded scholarships, do they have to create a CSS profile? No, they don't have to create CSS for that purpose, but they can create CSS if they want to apply for the need-based aid. Okay, so Ahmad, are you raising? Would you like to unmute yourself and ask your question, or is it that one about the fully funded scholarship? Let's say, okay, let's see what you said. Miss Nisa, can you please raise my last question, please? Those who want to get a fully funded scholarships, do we need to additionally create CSS profile or not? I think universities prefer it, like Columbia. I don't think universities necessarily prefer it. I think, like I said, these are completely different things. So fully funded scholarships and CSS profile are completely different things. They do not go hand in hand. Fully funded scholarships depend on your application, where CSS profile depends on just your tax returns and your economic situation in your family, right? So you're budgeting your money, your income, your parents' jobs, basically. I don't think that universities necessarily prefer it. It is helpful when you are trying to apply for need-based scholarships. If you don't have it, that's totally fine. It's not going to disqualify you from fully funded scholarships. I hope if that answers. All right. Thank you for live. It's helpful. Absolutely. Is scholarships are limited or something like that? It is it's kind of a certain amount of. Hold on, let me read it again. Sorry. If scholarships are limited or something like that, it's kind of certain amount of. So if I understand correctly, you're asking about if they're limited and limited to a certain amount. So the scholarships are limited to a certain amount. Typically for every school, they have a certain budget, right? So they're not going to be, I don't know, $100,000. For us, our maximum amount that you can get with merit-based plus CSS profile would be about 46,000 per year. So that is our max amount that we cannot go over just because of our budget, and how much funds we have to allocate to give to international students. So that's going to be our sort of cutoff, which I'm sharing this with you. You cannot find this information anywhere. So it's hard to get that information from the universities typically, but just so you know, for a lot of liberal arts schools, public private schools, that's going to be about the amount. So that's pretty much 75% of the whole price your education costs, which is really, really good. But we're not going to be able to go over that just because of limited funding that we have. All right, so in order to apply for scholarship fully funded, can we directly apply to the university website or Common App? You can do either one. Both are free. So our application is free and Common App is free also. So whatever works for you, we accept both of them. Thank you for live scholarship. Okay, I just read that. Yeah. I think that's all the questions, correct? Unless I missed something. And if I did, I apologize. Please make sure that you, if you do want to ask something else, definitely email me, get a hold of me, and I will be happy to answer your question if I didn't cover it today. which let me see if I can quickly put you guys back on the first slide. So here in the bottom, there's my email. So if you want to write this down and then anything you want to ask, just let me know. And I'll get back to you as soon as I can, because I know a lot of you guys have questions about bank statements and your specific situations, and we can talk more about it. Absolutely. If you want to just email me, just because I want to be mindful of our time. And I know it's already been about an hour, so I don't know how much time Anissa has. Thank you again for this opportunity.
Yeah, thank you a lot once more. There's one final question which I just want you to respond if it's okay. They're asking whether a time when a student got accepted due to his personal statement, even though he had like a poor SAT scores and no extracurriculars.
That's a good question. So that's going to depend on individual case, I would say. Definitely there are certain scores that we want to see and that we're not going to be able to admit you if the scores are below the requirement, but personal statement can really help out though. One thing that I can say about this, if your test scores are not that great, so SATs, SAT, personally, at Illinois Wesleyan, we are test optional. So we do not require test courses here. So if you decided to take SAT and then you didn't get a great score, that's totally fine. You just do not include it in your application. And that's when the personal statement will come into play in the essay as well. So that's going to be something we're going to be looking at instead of the test scores. So just make sure that you submit whatever makes you look good, whether it's a letter of recommendation, if your professors or your teachers wrote you an amazing letter of recommendation, definitely submit those. Or if you did take the test, SAT, and it's like super high, but 1,500 or something like that, definitely submit that. So just kind of pick and choose whatever is going to make you more, make you look better, make you look like a great applicant. But yeah, personal statement can help, but it cannot basically, override the poor test scores. So if that's the case, then I would just not include the test scores.
Okay. Yes, thank you very much, Kate. Thank you everyone who have joined us today. If you by any chance forgot to screenshot the first slide, you can email us and we'll share the contacts of Kate with you guys. And thank you. Have a great rest of the day. Thank you very much for being with us tonight.
Yeah, thank you so much for this opportunity. And again, if you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer. And I hope you guys all have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.